All right. Greetings, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to another episode of Pineapple Headache with your co-hosts, Madison and...
Christienne.
Yeah, don't sound too excited, but actually don't, because today we are revisiting
Trauma.
some trauma that we experienced together.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, very unfortunately.
But I think it's a common thing that happens for people of color on college campuses.
Yeah.
Or PWI.
Yeah, for
schools.
real. Yes, literally. So as some who know us may remember, the fall of our senior year, so fall 2019, Christiane and I were like, let's take a class together. That was our first mistake. And our second mistake was we picked this class that was about representation of people of color and just representation in general in media. It was very, very broad subject, you know.
But it was a Chicana studies class. So
Yeah.
I thought, oh, this is gonna be like a good class. Like we're gonna learn a lot.
Ethnic studies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ethnic studies.
But
I was
also
this is usually a safe space. To do
usually,
that.
but unfortunately it was also cross-listed as like a journalism class. So like that I think kind of did not help. But okay, so basically, this class was about exactly what it sounds. The professor she was Latina. I don't remember exactly what ethnicity.
I think she's like half white.
Yeah, she's half white.
Puerto Rican, I think.
Yeah, but she is like physically like in appearance like white passing. And so we were just like, okay, let's do it. And the first day of class, we walked into class together, and then she was playing Lizzo, and I was like, I posted, I think on my Finsta story, I was like, this class is playing Lizzo, it's already a good start. And then I have this picture of me and Christiane, this Snapchat selfie, where I was like, I have class as my fave. And pictures, top 10 pictures taken moments before disaster is what that really is now. Do you remember anything about the first day of class?
The first day of class, someone already said colored people, right? I'm pretty sure that's what happened. I think it was a first day of class thing. And then one girl who I will name Lithuanian girl because
that's what
how
she
we
talked
referred
about.
to her.
She talked about it a lot.
She was very big on her Lithuanian heritage, which that's not a bad thing, but she would ask questions of what's the difference between nationality and ethnicity? And we were all like, okay, it's an interesting question to ask, but we're not gonna judge.
Mm-hmm.
And we were explaining, the professor explained to her oh, nationality is your citizenship,
like the country you're in right now.
Yeah, the country you're in, and then your ethnicity is
your cultural background or country of origin or for your family and stuff.
Yeah, and so she was like, okay, so I consider myself Lithuanian, but I was born in America, and so we were like, okay, so you would be
nationality is American.
Your nationality is American, so you would be American. She's like, no, but I'm Lithuanian, I speak the language, and my family's from there. And I was in my head, I was like, congratulations, you just explained a lot of immigrant families in America.
Yeah.
I don't call myself Filipino. I call myself Filipino American.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe it's just first day things. This will.
Was that also on the first day?
Is she the first?
Is she the one?
Is she the first person who started saying colored people?
I feel like she was, and I feel like the nationality conversation was at least within the first 2 weeks of the class.
I thought it was
very
first day.
Early on.
Well, because I think our professor gave a whole overview, generalized basic terms of race and stuff like that. And so I think right before she got to the slide about comparing the use of colored people to people of color, I think she said Lithuanian girl said colored people, and just in passing in conversation. And a lot of us were like, oh, that doesn't sound right. We are not in that era anymore.
I was like, whoa, did that just happen? And I know not every white person's experience is universal, but I gotta say, in my own experience as a partial white person and growing up around mostly white people. I never really heard colored people used anymore. I really thought that was gone.
I thought we were not living in that era
legit
anymore.
Don't hear it, right? Like, I've never heard my dad say it or anything. So I was genuinely confused. I think she's from Chicago too, Lithuanian girl.
Unless she grew up in white suburban Chicago.
Well, I feel like that's how it is. When you think of big cities where they have big populations of color, it's there's still a lot of segregation in there because of all the history and stuff of housing.
Redlining, yeah.
Yeah, so then if you grow up in a super, I guess, white pocket of a major city where it's especially if it's maybe a lot of upper class white rich people or something, I don't know. I mean, I don't really know her background. I just know she's from Chicago and she was saying colored people with her whole chest.
And she is Lithuanian.
And she is Lithuanian
heritage.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is Lithuanian American.
Yeah, so.
But she just dubbed herself Lithuanian, so that's why I will refer to her as Lithuanian girl.
Because she, really wanted the world to know. And we were just okay, this is a class about people of color. Yes. It's a, ma'am, this is a Wendy's. I feel like that meme is, half this class. It's just ma'am, this is not that space.
Yeah. And so I just generally what the class the class structure was every week we would specifically look at a different group's representation.
Mm-hmm. So very broadly overview.
Yeah, overview. So we'd be looking at the representation of Black people one week, and then another week Asian representation, and then another week we did Indigenous representation. I remember that because there was a whole thing with that week too.
Well, because it was the first few weeks of the class, the professor was the one kind of leading it, and then it went into I think every week or every class, there was student-led presentations and student-led discussions, which that led to a whole other can of worms. But I have a whole timeline written down, and the only really next major thing I have to note is that by September 21st, I had apparently vented about this class on Tumblr and said that multiple times by then people have I said this one white girl had said colored people multiple times already, and it was basically I can remember one time the professor telling her not to do that, and then it kept happening. So I was
where is the learning curve?
There was not really any progress being made, and I don't know what was happening behind the scenes. I think it was Lithuanian girl who was the one who kept saying it, and then eventually your favorite was also saying it, Pigtails, as we called her.
Oh, yes. So there's this other, white...
She was a sorority girl, too.
Yeah, she was a sorority girl. She always came into class wearing pigtails, and she would, doodle in class and not pay attention.
Mm-hmm. Which was very discussion based. There was a lot of small group discussions.
I don't I'm not gonna hate on that because it's if you're bored of the class and fine, you're just trying to get through it. I do that a lot with some of my classes, but it's kind of the thing where she would raise her hand to respond back and genuinely think she's contributing the conversation when she wasn't. Yeah, that would bother me a lot, and I'm we're actually trying to have meaningful discussion here, and I'm actually trying to learn. So can you not pretend?
And then wasn't it in care? Because also the way the seating arrangement was we sat at tables where it was a group of 5 or 6 to a table, and then I think you had sat with her a couple times, and every time it would become a small group discussion, she would just talk about other stuff, right? Be off topic.
Oh yeah, she would be off topic, and I'd be we are not on this what we're supposed to be talking about right now. Can we go back? There was one time she I don't know how it came up in conversation, but she was talking about her sorority sister was a guest star in Good Luck Charlie. And I was where's the connection?
Awesome.
That is a white family.
Yeah. And it was a white girl she was talking about. Yeah, so just that kind of atmosphere and stuff. And so this kind of continued on. I think our presentation, because then we gave a presentation with another one of our friends where the 3 of us talked about Asian American representation in the media.
And also me and Madison were 2 of 3 Asian people.
There was another
class.
Asian person?
He was mixed. No, he was mixed.
Oh, I knew there was an Asian girl that I knew at the beginning who was there. Then she left, so that's what I was thinking of. She like transferred, okay. She dropped the class. Oh, but then I also have this other thing where just to also help set the stage as the semester was going on, and then we eventually gave a presentation. But like, there was these two British people in our class. One was like a white girl, and then one was like, I think he was like Colombian or something. He was like South American, white passing South American who had a British accent, which leads me to assume he was raised in the UK or has British parents. I don't know. And they would also not help at all, or like the guy would always want to play devil's advocate.
No, both of them would want to play devil's advocate, and I was like, why are you
play
invalidating
devil's advocate in racism conversations?
Why are you invalidating literally, like, it's like different people's experiences. It would invalidate week after week, and I'd be like, you need to stop. Like, you cannot do that if people are saying like this is their life.
Yeah, or like the other thing that would happen too is like the professor would like very gently correct white students, or be like, hey bestie, maybe don't say colored people. Like, that was basically what was like, they were very coddled. And then the people of color in the class, the moment we just said something that maybe wasn't worded with the most nuance in the world, she was like, you're wrong. And we were like,
oh my gosh. Oh, you just brought up a memory.
I remember what you're probably remembering.
I feel like us explaining is probably like all over the place right now in terms of like explaining the timeline. But like when me and Madison were giving our presentation on Asian representation, like we were talking about the immigration patterns and language.
Yeah.
And I was talking about how a lot of, a thing that is common in Asian American families within the second generation, which I am also speaking from personal experience, like we don't learn the mother tongue of our parents because they want us to assimilate faster into American society. And then she stopped me and she was like, that is not the only like
not that only happens. Asians.
Yeah, like not only Asians experience that, like, like Latinx people experience it too. And I was like, I'm literally giving a presentation on Asian American representation.
Okay. I was like, I don't doubt that this happens in Latinx families.
Yeah,
but also,
how can
you, the half-white Latina person who can still speak Spanish, how is that your place to butt in and be like, no, you're wrong, even though I am a living exception to literally what I'm saying right now. Like, that was really bothering to me, because I was like, listen, because like since she was also mixed, I was like, listen, that's a whole other layer of complication where I'm gonna bet most people who are half white, who are also like multiple generation whatever American, so they're not the immigrant generation, they probably don't know their family's other language or like original language. So like, why are you trying to like be all like, well, not, it's just, I was just so annoyed. I was like, oh my god. Every time I say it, because like, I'm a half white person or whatever, as we always talk about. So like, my thing that I found in my personal experience, I feel like people who are mixed, like half white, honestly very hit or miss about where they stand on stuff. Like, honestly, I literally can't half the time. I'm just like, oh my god, please. Yeah, so anyway, so our presentation, also another part of our presentation, as we all know, I was an Asian American Studies minor, and I was just so fed up with, also because she like gave an overview of like this stuff before, but didn't really go that in depth, so there's a lot of context missing for Asian American history. So I basically just took a whole chunk of the presentation just to give like Baby's First Asian American Class 101 and do like Asian American history summary.
Chinese Exclusion Act.
I literally was like, here's an entire timeline. I'm gonna go item by item, and it was like 4 slides, but then I narrowed it down to 2 because it was really long. Where I was just like, okay, here's like a basic rundown of like Asian American history, when different groups started coming in, what laws the U.S. government passed to stop them from coming in, then when it finally was like legal for everybody to come, and how that affects today, and how that's so recent, this and that, because I felt like that groundwork was not ever established in the class, which I feel like you really need when you're going to talk about Asian American representation in media. So I was like, guess I have to do everything myself. Yeah, so that was probably sometime in the fall. This whole time is the fall. This is probably sometime in like October or so. I don't really remember. But then this all really came to a head, I think on around the week of November 14th, 2019, because that week, I think it was Lithuanian Girl and Pigtails gave a presentation together, and I don't even know what they were presenting on, because I don't think all of the topics were about, like, specific groups of color. Like, I feel like there was one about LGBTQ+, and, like,
I think
there was,
they
like,
were
other ones.
talking about, like, just women in general.
Yeah,
I feel
so
like it was something like that.
There was some, like, not race-specific topics that people were presenting on. And, yeah, I don't think they were presenting on a race one. But then they said, one of them said the word colored, like, you know, talking about colored people in the presentation.
Also during the presentation, we're required to give, like, a paper, like outline, like a handout for people to read. Yeah, the people to read while we're presenting. And if you, like, when you read the handout, multiple times in it, like, on their handout, it would say colored people.
Yeah, I think it was 3 times total. It said colored people.
Yeah, because you circled.
Yeah, I circled it twice because I noticed it twice. Or I think you had read it first because then you told me and you were like, did you see that? And I was like, are you serious? Then I read it and circled it and I was like, are you for real? And then when we had somebody else pointed out a third time where it was said that I hadn't even noticed. So it was said a total of like 3 times.
Also, remember, this is, like, on the later end of the year. Like, the year was starting to wrap up now.
Yeah, we were, like, over halfway through the semester.
Yeah.
And, like, this class was, like, at this point, like, there was a clear, like, divide between, like, the students of color and the white students. And even though there was majority students of color in the class, like, clearly the professor was kind of, would rather, like, put us down. But then the white students, like, she'd rather, like, coddle the white students.
Yeah, she would rather, like, handhold, like, the white students.
Be like,
and
it's
also,
okay that you say colored. We can fix this. And then they didn't fix it.
Yeah, and also, like, whenever we would have, like, the British people would play devil's advocate, like, she would also try to coddle and, like, kindly disagree. And we'd be like, this is not doing anything for the conversation. Like, they're not gonna learn. Mm-hmm. We need to, like, someone needs to say something. And I think, like, often after class, like, a lot of us would meet up, like, because this class was in the library. We would, like, meet up outside the library and huddle into a group and just, like, give, like, an overview, like, what just happened.
Initially, like, during the first couple, like, weeks and months, it would just be me and Christienne would go out and sit on the grass right outside, because then I usually had, on Thursdays, I would have a work shift, like, half an hour later, and I think you usually had something, like, at some point afterward. So then it was like literally just go outside and touch some grass. Like, that was us. We were just out there being like what
we
just
needed
happened?
Some fresh air. We needed some fresh air.
I needed to touch some grass.
And then eventually, like, more friends, like, more people started joining in.
There was one time where she, like, caught up to us, right? The professor.
Yeah, she saw us and she was like, what did you think of the class? And we were like, we didn't want to say anything because we didn't want to hurt her feelings, but we should have said something in that moment.
Like, she knew, I think she could tell we were getting, like, antsy, and she was like, what's up, guys? And we were just like, please do not perceive us right now. After the colored people presentation incident, during that weekend, or, like, in the following week, both of us got added to a group chat with other students of color from the class, where everybody was, like, talking about it and being like, what is happening, and then trying to be like, how should we, like, talk to the professor, because multiple people also in our class at this point had tried to talk the people of color in the class, like, multiple of them had tried to talk to the professor one-on-one to be like, this is a problem, what is happening, and she was, like, kind of being like, no, the white students are making progress.
Okay, but, like, what about us?
Yeah, I don't know.
Also, well, because, like, for me and you, like, we chose to take this class, but for a lot of the students who were, like, Chicano studies, majors, like, you had to take this class.
Yeah, so to complete your
like, you major. Had to go through all of this, because this was not the first time this class has been having difficulties.
Yes, so
like,
she had...
our friend
took it
last semester.
Yeah, because the professor, she had started at LMU, I think, a year before, and she taught it that year, and it had the same exact problems, like Christienne said. And then one of our friends, who we were already friends with, like, but way before this class, we had a friend who took the class the year before, but took, like, the first half, and then, like, I don't know why, but she'd, like, you know, just changed her schedule halfway through the semester, but then she needed something, like, more units, I guess, so then she picked up the class where she left off the following year when we were taking it. And it was basically, and then talking to her and then talking to other people who had taken the whole class the year prior, they were like, yeah, that happened. This whole divide between the students happened then too. And every time we tried to like bring that up, the professor would be like, I have taught this class at several institutions. Like, that was her go-to quote. Like, she would always be like, at several institutions. We were always like, okay. But
she taught it at like a really good school. I think it was like a Dartmouth or like
yeah, something like that.
Something.
Like,
or something like that, or Duke or Dartmouth or something like that. And I was like, okay, but I don't know if you were in, like, if this class was just only having white people or something. But
yeah, like, it must have been a different situation.
We are in the here and now. Like, at that time, like, we need to talk about the atmosphere
right
being
now.
Yeah, the atmosphere in this class, because like week after week, it wasn't like a thing of like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this class. It was more like, oh my gosh, what kind of nonsense is going to happen in this class today?
Literally, it was so like insane. It just became such a meme. And also, like, there were so many of our friends, like our friends of color, who were not in that class but were just like friends with us, where we were like, I remember just telling so many people about this class throughout that semester, being like, oh, here's the latest of what happened.
Yeah, I think part of it is that because this class was like so invalidating of like our views and experiences, when it's all about representation, like I think we just needed to go at like the venting periods we had after class, or like just telling it to our friends, like we needed some validation, being like, this is wrong, right?
Yeah, I was just like, did anybody else feel like this?
Yeah,
and it's like, I feel like that just happens so much, where it's like,
yeah,
everybody on their own will be like, I feel like I'm kind of uncomfortable, but I don't know. But then people will come together and like swap that and those experiences.
Yeah, and once other people,
like, oh.
yeah, once other people in class were like, I'm feeling the same way too, and we're like, oh, so it's not just us. It's like, because I know we talked about being like the only non-white person in the class, or like sometimes being only like the like not a man, the only like not man person, whatever, in the class. And it's like, okay, so like it's kind of hard to tell, be like, is it me, or is it
it's like, am I crazy, or is this actually like exactly what you hear about people with this background experiencing?
Yeah, and so like now when you have it in a class where it's like more people of color who like, I feel the same way, I'm like, whoa, my God,
like, okay,
it's kind of nice, but also like we should not be having this.
We shouldn't have to have this conversation.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have had so many moments where I was telling people like, oh my God, this is the crazy thing that happened in the class this week.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But so
oh no, go, you can keep going.
Oh, because I was going to move on to the email that I don't remember. But there was an email after that, the weekend after the when we had made this group chat with all the other students of color, and then
was this when she also gave us that excerpt from White Fragility, or was that after?
Oh, I don't know. Well, this is the email where she was saying, because we were gonna have this like the last class before the week of Thanksgiving, we were gonna have, I think, oh no, there was no email. I got the dates mixed up. But so we were gonna have a class. I think there was an email, but not the email I'm thinking of. This is such a chaotic story. But so November 21st, that was Thursday, that was the week before Thanksgiving, and that was the class where she was not going to be there because she had a conference or something, so she had some dude from the writing center come to be like, I'm going to teach you how to write for your final.
I know, why he's like telling us to like how to write an essay, as if like we were
I'm a senior. I understand this is a oh my God, I don't even remember what they're called. The terms are for a class that you take when you're an underclassman. Lower division? Is that what it was called?
Yeah. It was a lower division class.
I don't remember.
It was a lower division class. And we were all like, I think most of us were juniors and seniors, so we were all, I think
there were some sophomores. I don't think there were any freshmen, so it was mostly people at least halfway or almost done.
Yes.
But so what had happened was, so this guy, Simon from the writing center, came, and he was gonna teach us how to write. But she had emailed us ahead of this class to be like, so that's only gonna last for an hour. This was an hour and a half long class, twice a week. And she was like, when Simon from the writing center leaves, you guys need to have a discussion to talk about our community issues.
We have to backtrack because during the writing, the assignment from the writing center portion of it, like when we were trying to write our essays or whatever, she like intentionally paired us up.
Yeah. Well, I was just saying, she emailed us before that class to say, this is going to happen. The assignment from the Writing Center is coming, like, the day before and then she was like, stay after for this discussion. And then when we showed up for the class with Simon from the Writing Center, he was like, your professor paired you guys off. And then, yeah, like he said, we had, we got paired off, interestingly, like, very deliberately. Like, she was pairing off, like, some of the more outspoken students of color about the issues of the class with, like, the really problematic white people. And then everybody was like, but then since we had this group chat, like, with the other students of color, like, everybody was texting in it, like, why did she do this? I'm so uncomfortable. And then, like, yeah. I think one of them had gone to that class early, so he saw the white students already congregating outside and waiting, and they were all like, guys, I'm gonna go off during the conversation, blah, blah, blah. I'm mad. I'm so mad. Blah, blah, like, as like from the enemy side, they were all like, "I'm so mad."
The enemy side.
I'm gonna go off during the discussion. Blah 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 blah. And then we got paired up with them, and then I don't remember who I was paired up with.
I don't either.
Was I paired up with British guy? I might have been paired up with British guy.
I don't remember. I just remember. I think I was. Because I remember we had like a draft or like an outline of our papers like already done, and then I just remember my partner being like, "It's good," and I was like, "Okay," like that was it.
Oh my god, I'm remembering now. I was paired up with British guy because then I was sitting next to him for this whole thing. Oh, because then I think in the reason why I had brought up that she emailed us about having this discussion, like, ahead of time, was because she told us she accused everybody in the class, I guess equally, of self-segregating. That was when that came up. She was like, you guys are self-segregating. No. Because apparently me and Christienne sitting next to each other at the same table with, like, our two friends, one of whom was Indigenous and the other was Latina. That was segregating. Like, I don't understand.
We had a lot of bases
covered there. Well, also, how is that self-segregating when out of those 4 people, we have, like, an Indigenous person, a Latina person, 2 people who are Filipino, but then I was also covering the white bases there. So, like,
I don't know. It's
there you go. That's diverse.
It's also the thing, like, wouldn't you want to sit with people, like, you already know?
Yeah.
Like, I want to sit with my friends. Because we were, like...
We're seniors. Don't try me. I'm not here to make friends with freshmen.
Like, it was, like, me, you, and then our other friend who's Indigenous, and then the other, she was Latina. Like, we were also, like, socially adjacent, so we already kind of knew each other. Mm-hmm. So, if anything, it was this class actually, brought us closer together.
Yeah, like... Yeah. I was just like, bro, like, I understand this is a lower division class, but some of us here are upperclassmen, so leave us alone.
Also, why would I want to sit with pigtails when, like, again and again, she would, like, not bring meaningful conversation into our discussions?
I don't know, you, like, clearly the professor wanted you to educate her and really hold her hand.
But, like, that is not my responsibility to do. Like,
no, but it is, apparently.
Oh, no. Because, like, that's, like, a thing that happens where it's, like, the students of color have to be the ones who have to educate instead of being educated when we literally pay so much money for an education. And
you mean exactly what this discussion thing was shaping up to be, this unsupervised discussion.
Yes.
Yeah, that's because that was, since she wasn't there and there was no other adult present, it was basically just up to students of color to remedy the whole situation and educate.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So which I guess, yes, brings us to after we did our little thing, paired up with, and I was paired up with a British guy, and everybody was paired up with very unfortunate people, and for this paper, and then it was time for us to all, like, I remember now, I had British guy too, because I remember sitting there with him being like, this is gonna look different in like an hour. Like, this is not going to be good in an hour. Mm-hmm. And then, so, when Simon from the Writing Center escaped, basically, I was like, yeah,
oh
you
yeah,
need to go.
our friend, he was like, oh, does anyone need a like extra help? Like your professor said there was gonna be a talk, and all of us were like, you need to leave. You do not want to stay here for this.
I was like, Simon, you need to save yourself while you still can.
Yeah.
You don't want to be part of this. And so then the conversation started with our friend, who read a letter to the whole class that she'd written kind of in response to the professor's email, where she was basically saying, oh my god, I keep forgetting parts of the story. This is such a discombobulated story, because I think there had been a mini discussion the last class when the professor was there about community issues, and so because it had been established by the time that our friend read her letter that from the white students' perspective, they were like, we're having interpersonal issues. Like, they were like, there was that one of them was being all like, nobody wants to make eye contact with me. Nobody wants to make small talk with me. I think it might have been Pigtails who said that to I think the class before. So then when our friend read her letter in this class, she was like basically saying like this whole thing, like why is it that anytime like there are these like issues where it's like white people not really being sensitive to or aware of like their actions harming like people of color around them, and then they're like called out on it, like they default to this whole thing of, why are you being mean to me, like why can't you like just be nice to me, and it was stuff.
I know, but we're literally like, we are not kids anymore. Like you need to really need to wise up about this. Like honestly, how many times have people said things like to students of color that they didn't really mean anything, but it like kind of hurt our feelings, and it's like I have to just pretend like that wasn't like harmful or anything or invalidating, and I'm just be like, yeah.
Oh, because then also when the white girl the class before had said like, nobody wants to make small talk with me, I also wrote this in my other Tumblr post about it. I remembered what she said verbatim, and I quoted it, and she was saying how she would always sit with, quote, the same students, the white students, end quote, because when she sits with, quote, the other students, end quote, they don't talk to her. That was exactly how she framed it, like verbatim, which she was like, I sit with white people because they'll talk to me, but when I sit with students of color, they won't talk to me. And then everybody was like, but so then again, fast forwarding back to when our friend was reading her letter, and she was just saying like, look, like a lot of times in these like conversations in these situations, like white people will like weaponize niceness and be like, why aren't you being nice to me? Like, oh, you want me to fix my behavior, be nice to me. And it's like, we have to like adjust the whole conversation where we're talking about their behavior making us uncomfortable. We have to make sure they feel as comfortable as possible when we like address the situation and try to correct their behavior.
That's literally what the professor would do week after week, where
she was like upholding their comfort like hella, and I was like, huh? And it's like, oh my god. So then so that was like what the letter was about, and then the conversation following it was a blur. But basically the white students did not listen to the point that our friend was making at all, and we're being like, well, then why is that about race? Like, I think that was the whole thing. I was like, we're not trying to make it about race. We're just talking about being nice to people. And then, and then Lithuania girl cried. Lithuania girl cried.
Oh, it was because, okay, so when we're referring to the white students, like, we're talking about the people who have, said, like, did wrong against the people of color. But there was this one girl in my class. She was also white. She was also my friend because we were in the same service org. She was the one who pointed out, being like, you wrote colored people like on the handout that they gave us, which means like you could have gone back and changed that beforehand, but you didn't. Like you reread that, or even if you didn't proofread it, like you read that and you were like, that is acceptable. That is okay to give to my peers who are students of color, and they like that thing that it's okay, like that is just not right. So then I remember like when she said that after we finished the class, a lot of the students of color were like, oh my god, I can't believe that girl said that, because like my friend was pretty quiet for most of the class. I think she was there to like legit learn and like hear other people's experiences.
Very unfortunate.
Yeah, and so she was like, she was just like, I'm not trying to be grouped with these white people who just want to invalidate. So when she like said that, I think a lot of the students of color were like, oh my god, like an actual ally.
Yeah, a white person with actual brain cells.
Yeah, and then Lithuanian girl started crying and she was like, I'm sorry. And then our friend was like, you need to like own up to it. And she's like, what do you want me to like I think that's what she said, like around
There
the
was
lines of
something
what she
about
said.
There's something about where, oh, I don't remember how it like got to this. I just remember our friend being like, grow from it. And then through tears, Lithuanian girl was like, I'm trying.
Oh yeah, that's right. I'm
I was like,
trying.
biggest meme of the class, honestly.
I was like, okay, but the thing is that, like, because I'm very, when you're talking about accountability, like, you can't just go by word alone, right? You have to see action being put into place. So for Lithuanian girl to be like, I'm trying, when literally week, like, in the beginning of the semester says color people, and then, like, towards the end of the semester, when she gives this presentation, puts color people in the handout without, like, any second thought. Like, where's the trying?
Where's
Where's
the
the
trying?
effort?
Where's the growth? And why does
Yeah,
she
like,
have.
there's no learning curve.
Shouldn't she have an F? That means she's not learning.
Yeah. I don't know what she
Like,
got in the class.
and she should have had an F. I would have given her an
But
F and be like, clearly you didn't
I
learn.
feel like you need to get you like at the end of the classes, any class, you should come out with like new knowledge. So it's like, what
Mm-hmm.
knowledge did you exactly retain from the class, then other than the fact that probably just like made her feel more scared around people of color. I don't know.
Yeah,
Made her
like
feel more victimized.
I just don't understand. Like I've had other experiences with this where it's like when a white person just gets like corrected on something, it like gets escalated from their like they escalate it on their end when it's really just as simple as a oh, I didn't realize. I'm sorry. Thanks. And then you just move on. Like I can guarantee you like 9 times out of 10 usually in those situations, the people of color making the correction are, they just want to move on. They just want to say,
Yeah.
"Hey, that was bad. Don't do it again. Now let's
Yeah,
move
cuz
on,"
like
and like just have that established.
what person would want to escalate the tension in a situation? Like, I wouldn't
I don't know,
ever.
and it's
Like,
like, cause then it's like it gets escalated when it turns into like white tears or like a whole like thing of like I'm a horrible person, this and that. Where you put a person of color in the position where they have to like be affirming, like no no no, you're still a good person. You just made this mistake. Like no, why are you making us do that?
all of us just kind of like sat there, like just
Literally, like
watching
that's
her
my other
cry.
thing too, is like you correct like this has happened to me in multiple situations where it's like a white person gets corrected and then escalates it, then starts crying. Meanwhile, the people of color who were the victim in the situation from the first place, we are sitting there dry-eyed. We are literally just sitting there existing, being like, yeah, we're hurt, we just want to correct it and move on. But then it always gets escalated, and then it's like, I was talking to someone about it recently, and they were like, white tears are like gasoline on a fire. And it's like, honestly,
Yeah,
that's
I
literally how it
mean,
always
it's a
goes.
very good like metaphor because it's like I feel like white women tears like really because I feel like it just emphasizes the whole thing of like victimizing like white people seeing themselves as victims when you're like literally you're being corrected. Like, can you not take criticism? Can you not take
Yeah.
feedback? Like,
Yeah. And it's just, and it's like,
what?
people, and if you keep, like, if you get so onto the defensive on it or never budge from, like, where you're coming from, which this has been going on for a semester at this point, like, then really, I don't think the people of color in that situation really owe it to you to stick around and wait and be like, okay, yeah, we forgive you now. Like, honestly, like, we were still being, we had to, like, break things down to their bare elements just to try to explain it to these people because our professor wouldn't do it. And then it's like, so forgive us if maybe we don't want to make small talk or make eye contact with you or sit with you because, like, it's when you're, it's like, because at that point, too, like, because our professor had tried very gently to do it, it's like, if even being coddled while you're being corrected doesn't, like, actually get you to fix your mistake, then what will? Like, what? So then we have to be
Mm-hmm.
all like, that's not our responsibility. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh my god, and what else happened in that conversation? Oh my god, the British guy got all, again, this is where my thing about people who are mixed with white, very hit or miss, this comes back, because then he got a whole complex about being, like, white passing, and he was like, ah, I can say what I want because I'm a person of color, and I'm like, dude, you are white passing, your skin is, like, the same shade as mine, maybe even lighter than mine, and mine is pretty light, so,
Oh my
like,
gosh.
chill. Get
Yeah. Oh
over
my gosh, why
yourself.
did apparent because I think I had like mentioned it how the British guy said himself that he was white when our friend had said that he what was it? Like he appeals.
our friend was basically saying, like, I won't appease, like, white guilt. Like, basically, like, it's not her job, and it's not any person of color's job to, like, absolve people of their white guilt or really do anything with someone's white guilt, because, like, why? Deal with it. Deal with it and then come back to me. And then he was all like, I'm not white, or whatever in his British accent. and then she called him white passing, and then he got a whole complex about it, and I was like, bro, I'm literally mixed. I'm literally also white. You need to, like, calm the F down. Like, I'm always like, calm down, chill. Like, just because you're part, like, person of color or whatever, like, in your racial mix, you don't get that doesn't get you a seat at every table. That doesn't give you permission to be talking out of pocket about, like, to go against, like, other people of color by being like, no, it's not really like that. And I was like, dude, you're white passing. I am white passing. I'm telling you, you are white passing.
Every time, though, okay, because it's like, if you're playing devil's advocate, like, I would think that you would have a good explanation and counter argument to the thing that is, to the point that is being made. But literally, every time him or a British girl wanted to play devil's advocate, it didn't really do anything. Like, they stood on the most shallow level of, like, explanation, and it did not go any deeper in the conversation. Like, that one time when we were talking about typecasting, about I forgot what movie we were talking about. We were looking at a casting sheet, and it was literally showing how, like, the casting sheet wanted, like, lighter skinned black women
for, like, and it was like light skinned black women who were like beautiful and exotic.
Yeah, like, it clearly said that. Clearly said that. Majority of the class agreed. The professor agreed, and then British girl was like, "But what if it's not?" And then the professor is like, "It is." And this is a little conversation. That was a little conversation at the end of the class. She was like, "But what if it's not?" And the professor was like, "But it is." And then she was like, "But what if it's not racism, though?" And then our friends were like, "It is racism. It's, like, right there."
Literally. And it's like, oh my god. Everything just makes my brain stop working. Or, like, and then just the whole thing of, like, I think she would also do the thing of being like, well, what if the actor they casted is just better at the role than any people of color? I think that was another point she made at one point or something, and we were just like, girl,
it's like, if like other people of color, like, you know, in the situation, because she was talking about Zendaya getting all of the roles, like, getting all of these roles, and how she's often seen as, like, you know, a representation for black people in media. So we were talking about that, and she was like, what if she's just getting the roles because she's really good? And I was like, okay, a lot of, like, darker skinned black people are not getting the opportunities that Zendaya does, and they probably have, like, a better chance of executing the role better than Zendaya. Not to, like, belittle Zendaya's, like, acting or anything, but why is she the only one? Like, she's the only one, like, getting all these roles. Like, there's, like, you know, like, kind of the staple people of color who become, like, the poster children for certain, like, racial groups. Like, that is a thing that happens in colleges that I see a lot, like, the POC poster children, and that's a thing that happens in, like, media when we look at certain celebrities. Like, they're staple, like, you know, like, the black, you know, actors and actresses, and the same thing with, like, Asian things. Like, why is Awkwafina in every movie?
I know, like, other people, like, exist, and where are the Southeast Asian actors? And it's just, oh my god. And then I know at least once in that class, I literally did the obnoxious thing of, like, well, as an actual film student, I actually know this, so yeah, because I think, oh my god, there was one time when we were talking about sitcoms, and Pigtails brought up Lost, you know, the drama from ABC in the 2000s, where they were all these idiots on an island or whatever, and having to go back and forth between the island for like 10 years, you know.
Oh my gosh,
that,
I think.
And she tried to bring it up when we were talking about sitcoms and the representations of people of color, and I was like, girl, that's not a sitcom. I am a screenwriting major. I will destroy you right now because I can't.
I think we were talking about, like, black representation and talking about, like, black sitcoms, which I was like, the person who is...
What? Why is Lost?
The person who was giving the presentation was actually, like, really interesting. I was like, oh yeah, like, let's talk about black sitcoms, because that's, like, a whole, like, subgenre on its own. And then she said Lost, and then I also looked at her, and I was like, literally, this does not pertain to the situation at all. This is not...
Like, shut the F up.
See, that's, like, that's what I mean. Like, that's what I mean. Like, she would say something that would not pertain to the situation and think she's right, and we'd be like, no. I was like, that is not it at all.
Literally, I was like, even on the basis of what kind of show, you sound so stupid right now, because anyone who's seen an episode of Lost, or, probably most people our age remember when it was on. It is not a funny show. It was a whole drama about these stupid people on the island. Like, what the hell? I was just like, oh my god. Like, I could feel my brain cells dying every single day I had to talk to those people in this class. So it was like, on top of like already being like saying actively racist stuff, they then were also just so stupid sometimes with things that weren't even related to race, like thinking Lost is a sitcom, that I was like, oh my god, I'm like being attacked in two different ways, dealing with genuine stupidity and then also racism. It was like such a tumultuous experience. I was just oh, but so to get this back on track, after this conversation with our unsupervised community issues discussion, which I don't even remember how it ended. I think some white people left because they were like, whatever, F this, bye. I think everybody just kind of F this at the end. Oh, you and I and a group of other people, we all blew off whatever we were supposed to be doing after that class, and then we went and sat in the Ethnic and Intercultural Services office, which is basically where all of, like, the cultural clubs and, like, on-campus, like, BIPOC community staff members are all working. They all work in that office. So then we all just went in there because there was like a lounge where like students could come in anytime, and then we all just went in there and were like being like, I can't believe that happened. And then we like met other people who had taken the class before too, and they were like, oh, that's unfortunate. And then I think we told us one of the faculty people about it who was just there, and we were telling him the whole thing, and he was like, literally, what the hell? And I was like, yeah, I don't know. And then we were like trying to go over the professor's head to meet with, I think, the department chair of the Chicano Latino Studies program. We were like, department chair, let's go, which that took a really long time to set that meeting, so that didn't really happen for a while. So then the next thing that actually happened was, I think, that following weekend, so the weekend right before Thanksgiving, we got an email from the professor being like, attendance is now optional for the whole rest of the class. And we would just have things that we had to do online, I think, every class time, but we didn't have to go there to do it.
Yeah, and then we just had to submit our final projects.
Yeah. And everybody's like, what the hell?
I mean, I didn't mind it. Like, I don't want to go back to that class again.
Yeah, but I was like, okay. So did you ever go back? I think I went back once.
No, I don't think I ever went back.
I don't even remember when or why I went back. I went back with one of our friends and nothing really happened.
I didn't want to really have a conversation with our professor. I was like, I'm ready to move on from this.
Cut ties.
Yeah. And it's not because also like I'm not like really related to the situation, but I also had a pretty busy schedule that semester, so I was like, you know what, anything to cut down on my busy life, like I'll do.
Your busy life. Yeah, because like, after the week of Thanksgiving, we only had, like, 1 week of class anyway, and then it was finals week. So I think I just went on the first day or something with our friend, and then I was like, okay. And then nothing really happened. Oh, but then I think I have my calendar from last year pulled up. I think on the last day of class, we met with me and one of our friends from the class and a couple other students from the class, some of the students of color. We met with the professor and the department chair to be like, here are the issues. And they were like, we don't know how to fix it. And then we tried to like suggest things to fix it. And then, I mean, this was December in 2019. So if there was going to be any kind of implementation of anything to fix it, because I think this class would have been taught in the fall again, which obviously, as we all know, COVID happened. So this class in person did not happen again since this whole experience.
Yeah, which I don't know. I don't know how it would happen like virtually. Like I feel like if you wanted to, like if you were to get upset, you know, it'd be easier to just log off or leave, turn off your camera, and do whatever. But we had to sit there in person for an hour and a half and just withstand.
That was like a whole experience.
In conclusion, you're gonna stay racist if you don't acknowledge the things that you are doing wrong. Or like discriminate against other people.
And just don't when I cannot emphasize enough, if you say something and then a person of color says, don't say that this is bad because XYZ, this is hurtful because XYZ, all you have to do is say, okay, I'm sorry, thank you for pointing that out, and then everybody moves the hell on. But no, people always have to escalate it, and then it just drags all the people of color along for this terrible ride that we did not ask to be on. And then we look like the bad guys at the end because we are impatient and done. We just don't want to deal with it anymore while, you know, the white people are crying or whatever. And I'm just like, why? Literally, why? I'm trying to remember if I even took another ethnic studies class after that one. I don't think I did.
Well, didn't you have to take an APAM, your APAM capstone?
Well, that was literally just, I think I just met with Dr. Rooks like twice, and then we were online, so it was just right at essay.
Yeah. After I took that class, I took an Asian American Literature Studies class, which was mostly Asian students in the class, and I was like, okay, chill. We were talking about books.
Yeah,
and
I
was like, my professor was really chill about it, very understanding, corrected people if they said things wrong, and I was like, great. Like, well, I get also, it's like, it was also a choice, you know, like, everyone who was there made the choice to take that class.
Yeah, and also
so
it's
I
like,
feel like that was it.
I know, like, for us, and, like, I think a lot of the people in that class who had taken other ethnic studies classes before, it was like, what? Like, at this point, I had way overfinished my APAM minor, because I think I took all but one APAM classes that were even offered at LMU, and I had never had any of these problems in those classes, because those professors, they were like, zero tolerance for this stuff. If you step out of line, I'm gonna put you back into line, and that's it. That's done. And then also, it's like, I mean, I guess to be fair, this class was kind of at a disadvantage, because it was like cross-listed as a journalism class, so then that kind of invites people who are coming into it just expecting journalism and putting their journalism thinking caps on.
Okay, but also
ethnic studies, but it's like,
if you're a journalist major, shouldn't you know these things too? If you're going to be reporting on such things,
I would like to think so. I don't know, because I think also part of it is like the professor like really sets the tone and space for the class, and it's like when I try to imagine like my other like APAM professors, I can't imagine any of them being like tolerant of any of this stuff, or even like making the environment feel like you could say that kind of stuff. I don't know. But it's just like, I don't want to blame the whole thing like the beginning part of it on the professor, like the fact that it started happening at all isn't necessarily her fault, because that was, you know, people's choices to say colored people or play devil's advocate or do whatever. But like, it was through her repeated inaction and like lack of response and lack of like discipline to that I think really is what made that all go the way it did. In conclusion, that was a very unfortunate experience. And honestly, aside from that, my fall 2019 semester was fine. But that was a huge stain on the whole thing. Like, in conclusion,
this is a memory that we will have for the rest of our lives.
And anytime now I have problems where it's like similar to that, I'm just like, oh my god. Like, I feel like it's just left me with such a lack of patience to even deal with this stuff anymore. Like, anytime it comes up, or I'm just like, yeah, no, I don't have patience for this anymore, because I had to put up with it for 4 entire months, and I couldn't, and I, you know, it was just on the burden of the whole thing was put on students to deal with, instead of, like, the professor, so I just don't have the capacity to deal with this crap anymore, so I'm out of here.
Yeah, well, now we refer to this, like, whole saga as the race war the events of the race war class, so...
Yeah, which literally, if you ask any of our friends, like, what's the race war class, they'll know exactly what you're talking about, because they had to listen to this the whole time, that whole semester, so. Character building, I don't know. Did I grow from this?
I don't think we needed it.
The only thing that, actually, I did not, what's the opposite of grow? Shrink, because my patience and my temper shrank a lot from this. Regret? No regrets.
Oh, no, I said regress. Like, did you regress back?
I don't think I regressed. I think I was just like, you know what? If stuff like this happens to me in the future, I'm just not even going to give it the light of day, because I don't care anymore.
Well, now you know you can't, like, well, now you'll know, like, the feeling, because you've experienced it. You're like,
Yeah, and that's when I'm like, I'm out of here. I'm like, I'm not doing 4 months of this again, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know where any of these people are now, but... I would like to hope that they've grown, but I really doubt that they have.
They've grown with the events that have unfolded in the last year and last year.
Yeah, this was definitely a headache, I would say.
Yeah, this class was a weekly headache. I really did not enjoy it, even though I was so excited.
It was a bi-weekly headache. It was twice a week.
I was so excited because I was like, oh my gosh, representation! Like, this is a thing that like
Yeah, I think you were the one who found the listing, and I was like, okay, I'll take
it with you. And I was,
top 10 things like, oh my gosh,
representation. This is gonna be like a class / like non-film class where I think I'll actually learn about like representation and stuff, and then it turned into this.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we were part of history. Yeah. I guess we made some good solidarity friendships out of that, but other than that, the whole experience was definitely like a -5 out of 10.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for listening to another episode of Pineapple Headache. I don't have to ask the question. This has definitely been a headache.
Yeah, this is not open for discussion. If you're saying this is not a headache,
we will not take any devil's advocates.
No devil's advocates here. No playing devil's advocate when we're talking about people's life experiences or like things that literally happened, aka racism.
Goodbye.
Farewell.